So it's Parshas Parshas Vayechi. So it says like this in the beginning of Kapitel Mem Tes. It says Vayikro Yaakov el Bonov Vayomer Hey Osfu Va'agido Lochem. Assemble and I will tell you Eis Asher Yikra Eschem Ba'achris Hayomim. What will happen to you in the end of days? The next pasuk says Hikovtzu Vishimu B'nei Yaakov. It's again Hikovtzu. Gather and listen, B'nei Yaakov, v'shimu el Yisrael avichem, and listen to your father Yisrael. So Rashi says on Heyosfu v'hagidolochem on the first pasuk, Rashi says Bikesh legalois es hakeitz v'nistalko mimenu shchino v'hiskil oimer dvarim acherim. In other words, the Rashi L'chor is dealing with the fact that we have two psukim, one after the other. The first pasuk says, "Vayikra Yaakov l'bonav vayomer l'mei osvu v'agid lochem eis asher yikra eschem b'achris hayomim." But the next pasuk once again starts, "He kovtzu v'shimu b'nei Yaakov v'shimu al Yisrael avichem," and we don't find anywhere that he told them eis asher yikra eschem b'achris hayomim. So that's why Rashi is saying, "Bikesh legalois es hakeitz." The first pasuk was as he was wanting to tell them the kates, that's the achris hayomim. V'nistalko mimenu shchino v'hischil oimer dvarim acherim. What are the dvarim acherim? Pashtas, the dvarim acherim are the Ruvain b'chori ato koichi v'reishis oini Shimon v'levi achim, as all the psukim that come after this. But the Gemara in Psachim Daf Nun Vav says, the Gemara is having a discussion about why we say Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusay Loilam Void in Kriyas Shema. What's the source of the Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusay? The Gemara says Va'anan Mai Taima Amrinolei. In the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't say Baruch Shem. He goes straight from Shema Yisrael to V'ahavta. So why do we say Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusay Loilam Void? Zok the Gemara Kedir Reish Lakish. The Amar Reish Lakish. Vayikro Yaakov el Bonov Vayomer Hey Osvu V'agido Lochem. Bikesh Yaakov Legalois Lebonov Kates Hayomin V'nistalko Mimenu Shchino Omar Shemachas V'Sholem Yesh B'mitosi Psul Ka'avrom Sheyotza Mimenu Yishmael V'avi Yitzchok Sheyotza Mimenu Esav. So maybe one of my children is not the way he should be, and therefore Nistalko Mimeni Shchino Amru Loi Bonov. So his children said to him, Shema Yisrael, Yisrael being Yaakov Avinu, who is called Yisrael, Shema Yisrael, listen Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Amru, Kishem she'ein belibcha elo echad, just like in your heart there's only one, Tach ein belibenu elo echad. V'oisa shah, Pasach Yaakov Avinu v'amar Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchus Elolam Vod. So this is the source of the Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchus Elolam Vod. That was Yaakov Avinu's response to the Shema Yisrael that his sons said to him. Okay, so the Dvarim Acherim, according to the Gemara, is not just the Shimon v'Levi Achim, not just the Reuven b'chori ato, but it's this whole conversation that he had with them, which is not recorded in the Torah. Shema yesh b'chem psul, and they said to him Shema Yisrael, and he said to them Baruch Shem Kvoid Malchusay La'olam Vod. But we still need to understand. This explains why there are two psukim, one after the other. The first says, "Hey osfu v'agido lochem es asher yikra eschem b'achris hayomim," and the second pasuk says, "He kavtzu v'shimu b'nei Yaakov v'shimu al Yisrael avichem." The first pasuk was the hakdama to the bikesh legalois es hakeitz. The second pasuk is a new beginning, because now he's calling on them to tell them the dvarim acherim, that he's actually saying to them. But in the second pasuk itself, there's also a kfelus. The second pasuk says, "Hikovtzu v'shimu b'nei Yaakov v'shimu al Yisrael avichem." What's the pshat that the pasuk is koifel? Shimu. Hikovtzu v'shimu b'nei Yaakov v'shimu al Yisrael avichem. So, the Rambam in Hilchos Kriya Shema, Perek Alpha Halacha Dalet, says like this: Hakoirei Kriya Shema Kshu Goimer Pasik Rishon Oimer Balachash Baruch Shem Kavod Malchusei L'Olam V'Od V'Choyze V'Koirei Kedarkoi V'Haftas Hashem Ad Soifa. V'Lama Koirin Kain. Why do we read this way? Why do we say the Baruch Shem Kavod Malchusei L'Olam V'Od between the Shema and the V'Hafta, and we say it Balachash? Says the Rambam, Mesoros Hi B'Yodenu. Shebishah shekibeitz Yaakov Avinu es bonav b'Mitzrayim b'shas misasoi tzivam v'zirzom al yichud Hashem. He commanded them and he was mezariz them about the inyan of yichud Hashem, the oneness of Hashem. Va'al derech Hashem sheholach bo Avram v'Yitzchok Aviv, that they should follow in the footsteps of Avram v'Yitzchok Aviv, the derech Hashem. V'shoal oison. V'amar lahem bonai shema yesh bechem psoilos misha einoi oimed imi biyichud adoin kol ha'olam. Is there one of you that's not on the same page with me as far as yichud Hashem? Ki inyan she'amar lanu Moshe Rabbeinu pen yesh bechem isha v'chulei anu kulam v'amru lo shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem echad koloimar shema mimenu avinu Yisrael. Hear from us, our Father Yisrael. Hashem Elokeinu Hashem echad. Pasach hazokein v'ana baruch Shem Kavod Malchusei L'Olam V'Od lefichach nagu kol Yisrael loyma shevach sheshibeach bo Yisrael hazokein achar pasuk zeh. Okay, this is the Lashon Rambam. So the Kesef Mishnah says that the source of the Rambam is Reish Lakish in Masechtas Pesachim, but the Rambam omitted the bikesh legalois lahemes haketz. It's not relevant to what the Rambam is coming to teach over here. He's coming to teach why we say Baruch Shem Kavod Malchusei L'Olam V'Od. So the bikesh legalois lahemes haketz he omitted. V'hu zal soiver shekeshehizkiru b'Talmud Omar chas v'sholem yesh b'mitosi psul hainu shehizhirom al yichud Hashem mikan ve'elach. In other words, the Kesef Mishnah is bothered by the fact that the Rambam says that he gathered them and he was tzivam v'zirzom al yichud Hashem. From the Gemara, we don't see that. From the Gemara, we just see that he was worried that one of them is not a full believer in yichud Hashem, and they confirmed that they are all full believers in yichud Hashem. But where do we see in the Gemara that he was tzivam v'zirzom al yichud Hashem? So this, the Kesef Mishnah addresses this, and he says, "V'hu zal soiver shek sheizkiru b'Talmud Omar chas v'sholem yesh b'mitosi psul." It's not about the past. Hainu shehizhirom al yichud Hashem mikan ve'elach. The ilul she'avar yodeyahu shebonav kulam tzadikim. Aval hoya choyshev shema b'leiv echad mehem yesh eze shoyrish poire roish v'lana. V'zeu shekosav Rabbeinu ki inyan she'amar Moshe. She'Moshe Rabbeinu lo ychoshdom achshav b'maaseyem elo sheyesh b'libam tina. Moshe Rabbeinu also was only worried about maybe there's a root of evil that will eventually bring on something negative. Right? V'zeu ba'atzmoi inyan Yaakov kein nir li liyashev divrei Rabbeinu zal. Okay, so he says that even though the Rambam is talking about the future in a future tense, and the Rish Lakish is talking about the past tense, but it's all the same because he was worried about the future and he was mezariz them about the future. The Shema Yesh Bechem Psul doesn't mean a practical present psul, but it means a shorish that might bring a psul in the future. But we still need to understand the Rambam doesn't just say that he was tzivom v'zirzom al yichud Hashem. The Rambam says that he was also tzivom v'zirzom al derech Hashem sheholach bo Avram v'Yitzchok Aviv. Now this l'chora has no source in Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish is only talking about yichud Hashem. And the conversation that Yaakov Avinu is having with them is about Yichud Hashem. And they say to him, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. So that was the topic over here. So from where does the Rambam get that he was not only tzivam v'zirzam al yichud Hashem, but also al derech Hashem sheholach bo Avram v'Yitzchak Oviv? Now, Avadis, you're talking that if somebody has full faith in Yichud Hashem, he'll also follow in the path of Avram v'Yitzchak Oviv. But if so, it's not an independent issue. The Rambam wouldn't have to mention that independently. If he's mentioning it independently, it's obvious that this is an independent topic. But this topic is not mentioned in the Gemara, so where's the Rambam coming from? So I want to suggest that the tzivam v'zirzam al Yichud Hashem is the Pshuta Shel Mikra. Rish Lakish came to be Mechadish and to add also the topic of Yichud Hashem. But the Pshuta Shel Mikra is the Tzivam V'zirzam Al Derech Hashem Sheholach Bo Avram V'Yitzchak. How do we get to that? You know, when it says Va'agido Lochem Asher Yikra Eschem Ba'achris Hayomim, the Ibn Ezra says Diber Hanovi La'osid, that these are prophecies about the future. V'to'u ha'oimrim shehem brachos, that those that interpret what comes in the following psukim as brachos made a mistake. Ba'avur shemotzu basoif, because in the end of the parsha it says vayevorech oisam. But I say, says the Ibn Ezra, that these are not brachos. Va'aye birchos Ruvain, Shimon, v'Levi. Actually, about Ruvain, Shimon, v'Levi, Yaakov Avinu is talking about negative things they did. There's no bracha over here. Val derech hanavua omar v'zois asher diber lohem aviem. Va'achar kach berach oisam v'lo yizkar kosav abrachas. So, even though in the end of the parsha it says v'zois asher diber lohem aviem vayevorech oisam, the Ibn Ezra says v'zois asher diber lohem aviem is going on all the psukim that were said before, beginning with Ruvain B'choriyato. That's the V'zois Asher Diber Lohem Aviem, and Achar Kach Berech Oisam, and that's what the pasuk says Vayevorech Oisam. But the brachas do not appear in the parsha. However, Rashi Mem Tes Chof Ches on the pasuk V'zois Asher Diber Lohem Aviem Vayevorech Oisam Ish Ki Birchosoi Berach Oisam. Rashi asks V'haloi Yesh mehem sheloi birchom elokim teram. There are those that he didn't bless, he criticized them. Elokach pirushay. V'zois asher diber lohem aviem mashenema be'inyan. Yeah, this is what he said, and this is what appears. Yochol sheloi beirach leruven Shimon v'Levi. You would think that all he said is what's in the previous psukim. And Mamela, you're going to say, Shaloi birich l'Ruvain Shimon v'Levi. Talmud loymar vayevorech oisam kulam b'mashma. So according to Rashi, it comes out that what it says about the other shvatim, Yehuda, Ato, Yoiducha, Achecha, etc., those are all the brachas. Those are the brachas that appear in the Torah. The brachas that he gave to Ruvain, Shimon, and Levi do not appear in the Torah. But the Torah tells us in the end, Vayevorech Oisam Ishki B'chosei Berech Oisam, that he blessed them all. And you shouldn't say Yochol, he didn't bless Ruvain, Shimon, v'Levi, he blessed also Ruvain, Shimon, v'Levi. That's Rashi's Mahalach. Okay, so according to Rashi, the what appears by all the Shvatim besides for Ruvain, Shimon, v'Levi is actually brachas. But Ruvain, Shimon, v'Levi is not brachas. The Orach Chaim HaKodesh has a third mahalach. The Orach Chaim HaKodesh says, "V'hagam sheroinu sheloi beirach loy Ruvain v'loy Shimon v'loy Levi." So you're going to ask, why does it say that he blessed them? I mean, he didn't bless them; he criticized them. Says the Orach Chaim, "Yagid hakosov ki diburoi hakoshe Elohem hi birchosam," that his harsh words that he said to them, that is their blessing. V'hu oimroi asher diber vayevorech oisam. That the dibur, which is a dibur kosher, that is the vayevorech oisam. Umasha omar leruvein divrei kintur, shom tziva es habrocha. Al derech oimram zal, asida avoida shetachzeh lebechores. So when he says, Ruven bechoriyata, he's really telling him you have a potential for bechorah, and you will be a bechorah one day. Ukefi zeh, kivin shekava lo shema bechorah, osid ulamid l'shores losid lovod. V'gam Shimon v'Levi bircham b'masha omar, orur apom ki oz. Zuhi birchosam, this is their blessing. Shekilel litigboires hamekalkol umeria. In other words, Shimon v'Levi have a certain midah. Too much of it is negative. Only the right measure is positive. He cursed the tigboires hamekalkol v'hameria, and that's the bracha, that they should have the right measure of apom ki oz ve'evrosam ki koshosa. And he says, Gam ma shechilkom vehifitzom hu lahasagas tachlis ha'oishe gam kein. The fact that he spread them out amongst the other shvatim, that's also in order that they should realize their potential in the right way. And then he says, Ishke berchosoi, pirush, haroi loikefi bechinas nishmasoi ukefi maisav. What's appropriate for him, according to his neshama and his maisim, ki yesh l'chol adas, because you should know, ki hanefoshois, kol achas yesh lo bechinas hamayla. Every nefesh has a bechinas hamayla. Yesh shema'alosa kahuna, v'yesh malchus, v'yesh keser Torah, v'yesh gvura, v'yesh oisher, v'yesh atzloche, v'niskaven Yaakov b'birchosoi levorech kol echot kefi birchosoi haroi lo, hamelech b'malchus, v'kohen b'kohuna, v'chein al zeh aderech, v'loi hofach hamesilos. He didn't give the wrong person the wrong bracha. Everyone got the bracha that's appropriate for him. So what he's saying is really that the Indian of a bracha is empowering the recipient of the bracha to realize his potential and to live up to his mission and to be what he's meant to be. And therefore the bracha has to be ish kivir chosoi, a bracha that's according to his character traits and to his abilities. And since each trait has positives and negatives, it could be used in the wrong way, it could be used in the right way. Therefore, he cursed the tigboires hamekalkol v'hameiria. I mean, too much is not good. And therefore, that's the bracha. The bracha is that you should have that af and that evra, but in the right measure. That's the bracha. It's not that you should abandon it completely, because then you're undoing yourself and you're not being yourself. It's about being yourself and being yourself the way you ought to be. So in other words, the self-awareness that a person has as far as his strengths and weaknesses, as far as his character is concerned, that's the kli machzik bracha, without which one cannot realize his potential. And therefore, Yaakov in his brachas is defining each one of the shvatim and saying what their qualities are. What are their individual qualities? Gur Aryeh, Chamor Gorem, Ayola Shlucha. Yeah, each one has his qualities, and that's what he should tap into, and that's what he should express, and that's what he should become. You know, the pasuk says in Hosea, at the end of Hosea, it's in the Haftarah of Shuva Yisrael, it says, Mi chacham v'yoven eile novoin v'yedoim. Who's the wise man that understands this? Ki yeshorim darkei Hashem. Straight are the ways of Hashem. V'tzadikim yelchu bam. Tzadikim go in those ways. Urishoim yikoshlu bam. So what does it mean, Rishoim yikoshlu bam? Rashi says, based on the Targum, that Rishoim yikoshlu bam means bishvilom. Al shaloi holchu bahem. Kain Tirgum Yonason. In other words, contrary to the Pashut the Pshat, that Rishonim Yikoshlu Bam means that they stumble on the Darkei Hashem, he says, no, they stumble because they don't follow the Darkei Hashem. But Lefizeh Be'emes, the Pasuk, the beginning of the Pasuk that says, Yishorim Darkei Hashem Tzadikim Yelchu Bam, means that Yelchu Bam Kipshutoi. They go in the Darkei Hashem. And the Seif of the Pasuk, Upoishim Yikoshlu Bam, has a totally different meaning, that the Rishonim, they don't go in the Darkei Hashem, and Mamela they're Nichshel. So I want to say that according to the Rambam, the Pasuk reads Kipshutoi. Which Rambam? The Rambam in Hilchos Deis, Perek Aleph Halacha Dalet says, Haderech HaYeshora hi mida beinoinis. That the Derech HaYeshora is the middle of the road. Shebechol deya v'deya, michol deya sheyesh l'adam. The middle in all midas that a person has. V'hi haderech shehi rechoika mishnei aktzavos richu kshava. It's the derech that's equally far from both extremes. Ve'eina kroiva loy lezu v'loy lezu. And it's not close not to this, it's not close to this side and not to this side. L'fichach tzivu chachamim orishonim sheyeheya adam sham dei oisav. A person should always be evaluating his midas. Tamid u'mishaer oisam u'mechavein oisam b'derech ha'imtzois k'dei she'yeh sholem. And he goes on to explain. And then he says in Halacha Hey, hadrachim ha'toivim v'ha'yeshorim u'mitzuvim anu loleches b'drachim elu ha'beinoinim. We are commanded to follow these drachim beinoinim. V'heim hadrachim ha'toivim v'ha'yeshorim shenemar v'holachta b'drachav. So the Rambam says the v'holachta b'drachav is a tzivui to follow the middle of the way in all midas. That's v'holachta b'drachav. And in Halacha Zayin he says, L'fi sha'ashem oisa elu shenikra behen hayoytzer. These names that we call the Rebbeinu Shalom, hein haderech habeinoinis she'onu chayovim loleches bo nikreis derech zu derech Hashem. So the derech habeinoinis is called derech Hashem, because when we say about the Rebbeinu Shalom that he's a chanun, that he's a rachum, we don't mean extreme. We mean the middle. And that's why that's the derech Hashem, and that's v'holachta b'drachav is lefi. These shemos shenikra ben hayoytzer hein haderech habeinoinis she'onu chayovim loleches bo nikreis derech Hashem. V'hi, and this derech is what shelimda Avram Avinu lebonov. Shenemar ki yedativ lemana sheyitzave esbonov ve'esbeisai acharov v'shamru derech Hashem. Last is tzvako mishpat. So Avram Avinu taught us the derech Hashem, which is the derech habeinoinis. Okay, now you know the Rambam in the beginning of that perik says, "Choyle haguf," people that are physically ill, toyamim hamar mosoik. What's bitter tastes to them sweet. V'hamosoik mar, what's sweet tastes to them bitter. V'yeshmin hachoylim, mishem esave v'toiv l'macholoi she'ein ruyim la'achila. K'moi ha'ofor v'apechom, v'soyne ha'macholis ha'toivim, k'moi ha'pas v'abos ha'koylo firoi v'achoylim. So people that are physically ill gravitate to things that are destructive physically. Now he says, Cain, b'nei ha'adam, shenafshoisehem choylos, people that are spiritually, emotionally not well. Ma'avoyom v'oyavim hadeyois harois, they like midas rois. V'soinim haderech ha'toivet, they despise the derech ha'toivet. U'misatzlan loleches bo, and they're lazy to go in the derech ha'toivet. And then the Rambam says, Umahi takonas choyle hanafoshes. How could they get better? People that are spiritually ill. Yelchu eitzel hachachomim shehem roife hanafoshes. V'yirapu chol yom b'deyes shemalamdim bohem. They will heal them. Now the Rambam says in Halacha Beis, V'keitzad hi refuasam, mishuhu bal chema, somebody that gets angry easily. Oimrim loy lahanig atzmoi, sheim huka v'kulal lo yargish klal. We teach him that he should go to the other extreme, that when somebody smacks him in the face, he shouldn't feel it at all. V'yelech b'derech zu zman merubeh, at shetei oker hachema miliboy, until he'll uproot the midas hakas. V'imhoya gva leiv, yanig atzmoi b'bizoy and harbe, v'yeshev l'matam and akoil, v'yilbash bluyei schovois hamevazin es lev sheyan, וכיוצא בדברים אלו, עד שיעוקר גוי והלב ממנו ויחזור לדרך האמצעי שהיא הדרך הטובה. ולכשיחזור לדרך האמצעי שילך בכל יומיו. So the Rambam says that somebody that's on the wrong side, somebody that's a choyle nefesh, that he is a baltas, he's a balgaiva. He, in order to be healed, he has to go to the other extreme and go with that mahalach for a while until he will be ready to come to the middle. Until he'll be ready to come to the middle. Im hoyo rochik likotze ha'echad yarchik atzmoy lakotze hasheni v'yin hoyik bo izman merube at sheyachzer l'derech ha'tova v'hi mida beinoynes shebechol de'ebedeh. No, now the psukim in Hosea are about Shuva Yisrael ad Hashem Elokecha ki koshalta ba'avaynecha. We're talking about sinners, right? And that's what the pasuk says. Yeshorim darkei Hashem. The derech Hashem is what the Rambam said. The derech ha'emtzois. Those are straight ways, but only tzaddikim yelchu bom. But rishoim yikoshlu bom. A rasha that wants to go on the derech habeinonis, it's not going to work for him. He's going to stumble. Because the derech habeinonis is not going to heal him, because he's a noite litzad acher. He can't follow the derech Hashem at this point. At this point, he has to go to the other extreme in order to be able to one day come to be able to be hoylech b'derech Hashem. So the pasuk is saying b'diktuk that yishorim darkei Hashem, tzadikim yelchu bam, rishoim yikoshlu bam. And that's why the pasuk says, "Mi chochom v'yoven eile novoin v'yedoim." That's like the Rambam says that in order to be healed, yelchu eitzel hachachomim shehem roifei hanefoshes, because it takes a lot of chochmah to be able to measure and evaluate the midas and to weigh and to know where you're at and to know how to maneuver your way back. Only a chacham is a makir es mekoymoi. And therefore, mi chacham v'yovein zois, novein v'yedoim. So, l'fize kum techois, that the derech Hashem, shetziva aleh Avram, the Rambam said, is the midah beinoynes shebechol midah u'midah. So, the halicha in the derech Hashem is only possible if a person knows himself. And he knows his strengths, and he knows his weaknesses. He knows where he's at. Yeah, then he knows la'an hu noite, as the Lashon Rambam. But often that everything that Yaakov Avinu is telling his children in terms of giving them an understanding of who and what they are, that's really what enables them to be hoylech b'derech Hashem, because the derech Hashem is the midah habeinoyne shebechol midah u'midah. Just like he tells Shimon v'Levi, orur apom ki oz. So then they have to go to the other extreme in order to come to the middle. So really everything that he's saying to all the Shvatim in terms of telling them who they are, giving them an awareness of themselves, that is what enables them to follow the Derech Hashem. And therefore I'm saying that Adarabah, the Pshutei Shel Mikra is what the Rambam says in the Chizkriya Shema. They was tzivam v'zirzam, that they should go in the Derech Hashem that Avram and Yitzchak taught. Where is that in the parsha? That's what the entire parsha is talking about. Because knowing yourself is what enables you to go in the Derech Hashem. And Memela, that includes also Yehuda, it includes also Dan, and it includes also Yisachar, and it includes also Ruvain and Shimon v'Levi. Because the blessing is the blessing of knowing yourself and knowing who you are and what you are, and therefore knowing how to follow in the Derech Hashem. And Lefizet, you're talking that's why the second pasuk repeats itself, so to speak. It says, "He kavtzu v'shimu b'nei Yaakov v'shimu al Yisrael avichem." So the first "He kavtzu v'shimu," I want to say, is about Yichud Hashem. The second "v'shimu el Yisrael avichem" is the divrei habrachis, which is the tzivam v'zirzam, that they should follow in the derech Hashem. And that's why the first pasuk, he kafzu, in the ratio of the pasuk, the beginning of the pasuk says he kafzu v'shimu b'nei Yaakov, because in terms of Yichud Hashem, we're all on the same page. I mean, it's hikavtzu. It's gather and hear. We all hear the same thing, and it's one size fits all. That's as far as Yichud Hashem is concerned. But as far as the brachas, it's each individual shevet has his own qualities, and therefore over here it doesn't say he kavtzu. The seif of the pasuk says v'shimu al Yisrael avichem, but everybody has to hear it in individually. As the Ravid says in the Balei HaNefesh, in the Shara Kedusha, Ra'isi l'Rabboseinu zal shehoyu chasidim gemurim, v'hoyu goydrim atzmam bekama gedorim, v'chol echad hoyu goyde atzmoi l'fi ma shehoyu makir es tiv'oi, v'roya b'ma takon nosoi, v'chein kol odom tzorech lasis l'fi ma shehu makir es tiv'oi. So the key is really knowing yourself, knowing what works for you and what doesn't work for you. The Goyen in Mishle Yudalid Bey says on the pasuk Hoylech b'Yoshroi Yirei Hashem. He says Ki kol Adam tzorich laleches b'derech hatzorich loy. Ki ein midas b'nei Adam shovoi zelazeh. Yeah, the Rabbi Shol Salante in the writes Kol echot ta'avosoi lefi mizgoi v'tivoi. Ubezet tzorich yoyse gedorim v'hisrachkus gedorim aval amashe ein tivoi noite ein tzorich kol kach ligdorim. Yeah, we have a tendency, to if I'm a guy that never gets angry, so I feel that I'm a good Jew because I never get angry. But really, could be I never get angry because it's just not me. But where it's a challenge, it could be I'm totally nichshel. So knowing yourself is very important in order to be able to be an Oved Hashem. The Mishnah says Tzu'u Ura'u. Eze derech yishora sheyovur loy ha'adam. So the opening words are tzu'u, ura'u, which is plural, and the seifa is sheyovur loy ha'adam. So the Alter from Kelm says hischil b'loshen rabim tzu'u ura'u v'siein b'derech yochid sheyovur loy hainu ki yisoirus toiv b'rabim aval haderech hainu b'yochid ke'ein edem zelazeh. In other words, it's a calling on everybody to be Mesorah, because everybody needs to be Mesorah. But where to go with that, that's very individualized. And therefore, Eze Derech Yeshara Sheyavor Loy Ha'adam. I saw they bring that the Reb David Povarsky once said that he came from a small shtetl in Lita, and in the summer, Reb Yeruchim, the Mir Mashgiach, used to come there and spend a few weeks there, and it was really a God-forsaken village. I mean, there was nothing to do there. And he couldn't understand why would the Mashgiach be spending time, Bein Azmanim, in this village, until finally he finally asked his Rebbe Yeruchim what he's doing here. So Rebbe Yeruchim told him that I have nephews that live here. And, in order to understand a tree, you have to know all the branches. And Mamela, since I try to understand myself better, I come here to meet my nephews in order to learn about my character traits. So he was so serious about learning himself that he would go and spend time every Bein Azmanim in this village to spend time with his nephews in order to learn about himself. That's what G'dayla Yisrael did. The Mishnah says in Avis, that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had 5 Talmidim. Hu hoya moine shivcham. He used to spell out their praises. Yeah, Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenes, he said, is a bor sud she'enei ma'abet tipa. Rabbi Yossi HaKohen is a chosid. Rabbi Shimon ben Esanal is yirei chet. Rabbi Eliezer ben Aroch is k'mayinam is gaber. What's the point? Why was he telling them their milas? Not just to build their confidence, but mistama, because a person has to know his milas in order that he should know what he can do, what he can accomplish, and what his mission is. That we all know that it says in the Zohar that yesh shishim riboy oisius l'Torah. and that's the Rashi Tevis of Yisrael, that every Jew is rooted in an ois in the Sefer Torah. Well, it is a problem because we only have 304,000 letters in the Torah, but there are ways to deal with that. But, so a Sefer Torah that's missing one ois is puzzle. That's emphasizes the importance of unity. I mean, one Jew is missing, the Sefer Torah is puzzle. We all need each other. But on the other hand, that every ois has its own surah. And there's a halacha of mukev gvil. Every ois has to be surrounded by parchment. If one ois touches the other, it's puzzle. In other words, it's unity, but not uniformity. In other words, we're all together, but each one is an individual. Each ois is separate and individual and has its tzura. And therefore, there's no hikavtsu v'shimu when we're talking about the ishkibir chosoi beirach oisam. The hikavtsu v'shimu is only about the yichud Hashem. But when it comes to the ishkibir chosoi beirach oisam, it's shimu el Yisrael avichem, but not in an oifen of hikavtsu. You can't be like him or be like him because he needs to be like him, but you need to be like you, and therefore it's not. This is something that's individualized. Okay, Rabbi Say, I wish you a good Shabbos and all the best. Yeah.